Hello, everybody. I have a profound honor today of interviewing a legendary figure who has inspired a multitude of higher education leaders around the world. I am one. I have Dr. George R. Boggs with me today. Dr. Boggs is the President and CEO Emeritus of American Association of Community Colleges. He continues to be an active consultant, teacher, author, and speaker. As I mentioned, Dr. Boggs, I'm speaking with you on the eve of the second Knowledge Convention of the Non-Resident Nepali Association. And we are organizing this conference with the government of Nepal, jointly organizing with the government of Nepal. Nepal is now moving forward with a view to engage its demographic advantage for nation building. About 1/3 of the population is aged between 10 to 24. At this juncture, as a proponent of community college worldwide, what suggestions do you have for Nepal, Dr. Boggs?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ghali. It's my honor to be invited to be part of your conference. Maybe sometime in the future I can actually be in person, attend in person, but I'm happy to be part of this virtually. So as you mentioned, Dr. Ghali, I've been a proponent of community colleges for my entire career because they are the most accessible and affordable institutions of higher education and training anywhere in the world. I think a lot of countries make the mistake of thinking they need a Harvard or an MIT or a very prestigious university, when in fact they really need to be providing educational opportunities for all of their people. And the community college model, sometimes in other parts of the country, could be called technical or further education colleges or TAFE colleges, but the principle of providing community college education is an important one for a country to consider to provide education and training for its people. So I'm happy to be part of any effort to promote community colleges anywhere in the world.
Thank you, Dr. Boggs. I'm aware of many efforts that you have put to promote community colleges around the world, and I've been really impressed by the edited volume that documents community college adaptations around the world. Thank you so much, and you have inspired for me to also attempt something like this, global adaptations of community college infrastructure. I appreciate you being in the editorial advisory board for me to put this together. And definitely I have been fascinated by the idea of community college, having served in the Community College Futures Assembly as a program director. My professor Dale Campbell always mentioned your name as an amazing leader who gave a vision of what community college is for America. And one article among many that I used to read about your work is Democracy's Colleges, the Evolution of Community College in America. So Nepal is a nascent democracy. So for a country like Nepal, what do you think would be the role and importance of community college in consolidating a democracy?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ghali, and congratulations on your book. It provides a blueprint for any country to look at to establish open access institutions like community colleges. We sometimes refer to American community colleges as democracy's colleges because they really reflect the values of a democracy. They are accessible, they're affordable, they focus on helping students to achieve their goals, helping students to learn and be successful. But they also are very responsive to the needs of the economy and to their communities. For example, in the United States, the community colleges along the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana have petrochemical technician training programs because that industry is very important in that part of our country. If you go to Michigan and Kentucky, there are automotive technician programs because the automotive industry is important in that part of our country. Or if you go to Napa Valley, California, there are viticulture programs because the wine industry is very important. So the colleges have a unique ability to respond to the economic needs, and they can respond pretty quickly. They're very flexible and adaptable. And as I mentioned, they're non-elitist. There are no admissions. They're not selective admissions. They take a broad variety of students who are high school graduates or capable of succeeding in the colleges. So they're a great example of what is needed in a democracy to educate the people to participate in the economy and to participate in society.
Thank you, Dr. Boggs. That is very inspiring. I will go ahead and ask you about another burning issue that Nepal is experiencing at this time. I carried out a research on Nepal's higher education several years ago, and what came out was the lack of skills, like big skill gaps among the young people. And the other big complaint or concern I heard from the policymakers and even the Nepali diaspora around the world from my global survey of Nepali diaspora was the very persistent issue of brain drain. It has become an acute problem for Nepal. So how can we address this situation? What does your crystal ball say?
Well, first of all, you've done a lot of good research in this area yourself, Dr. Gali, and your article, Leveraging Diasporic Power for Nation Building, is very well done and can provide a roadmap for Nepal and other countries that are dealing with people leaving and coming. We have a very mobile population worldwide these days. So you provide some very good information in your article. Community colleges are of course, very critical to building skills, and it's important for policymakers and business and industry to get together to decide what those skills are needed for the economy and then to provide the educational experience. One example that happened in the United States is when the Carolinas, two of our states, North Carolina and South Carolina, lost furniture making and textile industry to other countries. And the tobacco industry went into a downward spiral because of the dangers of tobacco usage. So policymakers in those states got together and worked with business to develop a new economy for the Carolinas. And now it's a high-tech economy, not as dependent on those industries, former industries, as it used to be. The other thing I would say about the diaspora is that, and you make this point in your paper, that people tend to keep in touch with people back in their native countries and help those people, maybe sharing information or maybe even resources to help develop that country. So it's not necessarily a loss for the country to see people gaining roots in other parts of the world. The other thing I would say is that because of technology, a lot of people can work anywhere. You know, here we are on using video conferencing technology. I'm in California, and I'm not sure where you are, whether you're in Maryland or. And we're going to be showing this probably to people in Nepal. So people can, that's one thing that the pandemic has shown us, is that people who didn't think they could be productive working from home can do it. A lot of people can. So people in Nepal can contribute and communicate to people in other parts of the world, and people in other parts of the world can contribute to their native countries um, through use of technology. So I think there's a whole world of opportunity um, for people to continue to engage with where they came from.
Thank you, Dr. Boggs. I think you mentioned some very, very important guiding principles for us. We have definitely started some humble beginnings of creating mechanisms to humanize technology to connect with diaspora back home. And those are really proving very promising so far. And I have been trying to soak in everything that you have uh, brought us to our disposal, the literature, the data, the research, and the insights from your own leadership. Recently, I went over your book, Team Leadership in Community College, and the practical leadership in community college, navigating today's challenges. So some of these ideas I'm trying to consolidate and bake in and try to promote, of course, by citing you to the higher education leaders of developing countries. I've had opportunities to interact with higher ed leaders from Pakistan, from Egypt, and some other countries through the Community College Leadership Program. And I never cease to brag about Community College of the United States as the hidden treasure of America. What people see from around the world is the shiny jewels of America, like Harvard and Princeton. But the hidden treasure of America, I say, is the community college. And I am aware of your endeavor to establish community colleges in India and other countries. So what do you think, how do you think Nepal can benefit from your experience, Dr. Boggs?
Well, that's a good question, Dr. Gali. In fact, I have been promoting the development of community colleges around the world. And we did get established in Qatar a new community college when I was at AACC. And also there's a community college association now in Saudi Arabia. And of course, as you mentioned, I've been to India to promote community colleges and to Jordan and a few other countries. I think it takes a commitment on the part of the country. First of all, a realization that that community colleges are what they need, that they don't need a Harvard as much as they need to provide educational opportunity to a broad portion of their population, such as could be done with community colleges. So it takes a commitment and then a realization and then a commitment to make it happen. And of course, there are experts around the world who could help provide information and help the country to establish those colleges. As you mentioned, I've done some of that work. You certainly are very capable, Dr. Gali, to provide guidance to a country that wants to establish community colleges. And I know you have connections with others who could be helpful for specific parts of developing the colleges. So that's what I would recommend. There are people who can provide guidance. There are the publications that you mentioned that could be very helpful to a country.
Yeah, I have been using all those resources as my references in advocating the idea. I often struggle because what happens is like we fall into the schema that we have or the hubris that we have in the collective mindset. So when you think of a policy intervention, usually what comes is the cultural, political, and sometimes bureaucratic structures that we have to break through. And we have had small successes, and your insights of how to overcome those hurdles and barriers have been very, very useful. And I really appreciate you again for that. for this inspiration, Dr. Boggs. Again, coming back to the context of Nepal, millions of Nepali young people and women leave the country every year to seek employments in India, Malaysia, Korea, and Gulf countries. So Nepali laborers are building structures all over the world, and Nepali intellectuals are also serving in some critical areas in developed countries. But at this point, due to the pandemic, a large influx of these young people are actually returning back home, and it's a mess. So in the policy circle, we have a big anxiety, and also we're thinking whether we can turn this around as an opportunity to build our own country at this point with this demographic advantage that is now at our disposal. So before they think of going back to India or Malaysia, what could we do to make them feel that there are opportunities back home and we should start building our own country? Um, any insights coming from you would be very useful, Dr. Boggs.
Uh, well, I think it can be seen as an advantage that people are returning back home with skills they may have developed working in some other countries and learning about other cultures and bringing that knowledge back to Nepal. But I think it will take some visionaries in the policy making area to help to develop those people and make use of the skills that they have acquired. So again, I point to the visionaries in the states like North and South Carolina who were faced with what could have been a real disaster with the collapse of their economy, but they looked to the future and decided what they wanted their states to be, what kind of industry they wanted their states to have. And then they developed the infrastructure and the educational resources to make that happen. So I think that same principle could happen in Nepal, that policymakers could develop that vision for what the future of the country should be, what kind of economy should it have, and how to take advantage of the people who are returning with these skills. So that's what I would recommend, Dr. Gali, to start soon to think about what the future should be.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Boggs. My belief is that this conference will be attended by the policymakers of Nepal, including Honorable Education Minister, Prime Minister, and some representatives from the National Planning Commission, and the visionaries of Nepal, as well as the diaspora, successful professionals, businessmen from around the world. They usually gather in Kathmandu every other year for a knowledge convention where they discuss multiple ideas. And this time, one of the foci of the conferences, this conference has been skill development, given this context of pandemic, the young people returning to Nepal, and the opportunity that we have in front of us. So at this point, Dr. Boggs, you have a wealth of experience and connections, and you know the best practices and lessons learned and the challenges and the ways to overcome the hurdles, soft infrastructure to hard, that you have navigated from around the world. So at this point, I want to thank you. And if you have something to say to our policymakers back home, can you make it accessible for the community that is watching right now? What is community college and why is it so important for a country like Nepal? Maybe the definition coming out of your mouth, as they say, from the horse's mouth, that'll probably help, because we do not have this idea back home here. That's why I'm, propping you one more time. for this?
Well, Dr. Gali, the interesting thing is how community colleges developed in the United States, going clear back to the beginning of the 1900s, when university presidents really were behind the establishment of community colleges because they saw a need to provide access to higher education and training to people who may not get to the university, or maybe they could start in a community college first and then transfer to the university. So that's how it started in the United States, with the idea again that access to affordable, quality education and training was important for people beyond those who would go to an elite university. So I think that's important for a country like Nepal to think about. You're only going to be as strong as the skills of your population. So you need to think about educating and training a large number of people in your country. And the community college concept is one that could be valuable in doing that. I really think that that the strength of the United States is because we have educated and trained a large portion of our population. And I think that recipe would work for Nepal and any other country as well. So thank you for what you're doing. And I hope that you have a great conference and that you do envision a great future for Nepal going forward, and that this conference can play a role in that.
Thank you, Dr. Boggs, for sharing with us the secret of America's success and the golden nuggets of your from your wealth of experience regarding community colleges and polytechnics around the world. We really appreciate you and we wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you for including me, and good luck with everything.